The first 7 races of the 2025 Formula 1 season have gone by in a flash, but taught us much about the strengths and weaknesses of all 10 cars. The Races team in the F1 paddock has watched the cars from trackside, analysed the data, spoken at length to the drivers and team personnel to understand the relative performance of the cars. And with a wide range of conditions and track characteristics accounted across the Albert Park, Shanghai, Suzuka, Bahrain, Jeddah, Miami and Imola circuits, as well as knowledge of how the cars have evolved, it's possible to build up a comprehensive picture of how well, or badly, each car is really working. So, in reverse championship order, here's our evaluation of the 10 Grand Prix cars fighting it out for glory in 2025. The Sauber C45 is living proof of how tightly packed the 2025 F1 field is. On average, it's only 1.7% off the pace, around 1.4 seconds, around a typical 80-second lap, but that's enough to make it a back marker. The Sauber is generally at its best in qualifying trim when the extra bite of fresh soft Pirellis at least means it's possible to slip into Q2. That makes qualifying pace, relatively speaking, its strength. Even then, it still requires perfect execution from drivers Gabriel Bortoleto and Nico Hülkenberg to avoid elimination in Q1. While there was plenty of talk of its troubles in dirty air, the primary weakness is simply an excess of understeer and not enough downforce. The Alpine A542 is a handy car chassis-wise. Its strengths are in particular in faster corners and on traction, which has made it a car that has produced strong pace that isn't reflected in the results so far. The Alpine is the 7th fastest car on average, but has failed to make good on the pre-season promise that it would be vying for the leadership of the midfield with Williams, and that's all because of its major weakness, which lies behind the driver. It's well known that Alpine has a small power deficit of around 15 kilowatts or 20 brake horsepower. Around an average circuit that costs approximately 2/10. However, that's not the only problem. The ERS system is also inefficient when it comes to harvesting electrical energy under braking. That means the battery is charged at a slower rate, and while that can be mitigated in qualifying when you can charge up the battery for a single push lap, it costs performance once into sustainable running in a race stint. Pierre Gasly admits that there are some tracks where Alpine will struggle more than others as a result. That's not going to change given the power units are homologated. That's why Alpine is eagerly awaiting the switch to Mercedes customer engines for 2026. The V-Carbo 2 didn't look like a midfield frontrunner during pre-season testing in Bahrain, but quickly emerged as such, and while it hasn't had the same speed as the Williams, it's a regular in the top 10. The car's main strength is that it's, by F1 standards, usually fairly easy to drive. Those benign characteristics allowed Yuki Tsunoda early on and Isaac Hadjar throughout the season to threaten for points regularly. High-speed corners have been the main weakness, less so in terms of handling and more just as a reflection of total downforce. An upgrade at Imola helped, although the conversion rate of opportunities to points needs to improve. The Aston Martin AMR25 is an improvement on last year's car in terms of stability, but it's not been a transformative change. And while the recent upgrade package introduced at Imola was a boost, it's still unclear whether Aston Martin can be a regular points threat. The main strength of the car is performance in fast corners. Its main weakness lies at the other end of the speed range, with Fernando Alonso recently saying it's like the car is dying in the low speed. As far more time is spent in slow corners, that's not a good situation for Aston Martin, but as team principal Andy Cowell says, the Imola upgrade was an improvement across the speed range, and that means that Aston Martin is going in the right direction. The Haas's great strength this year has been that it's a car that generally has decent balance. That means that it's been at least a threat in the midfield pack pretty much everywhere, even though it's an unremarkable 9th fastest on average. However, that's distorted by the dreadful performance in Australia, where aerodynamic oscillations, the dreaded bouncing, caused big problems in the high speed. As performance director Damien Brayshaw said at Imola, Haas is one of the last teams to hit this problem, having previously avoided it. This means its big weakness is the threat of porpoising and/or bouncing returning. So far the signs are good, after a quick response with an upgrade for the 3rd race of the season in Japan, which was built on with another package introduced at Imola. The Williams has been so powerful a midfield standout that it has at times caused problems for both Ferrari and Mercedes. What's more, it has racked up 50 points, only 7 fewer than Sauber, Alpine, Aston Martin, Racing Bulls and Haas combined. The Williams is generally at its best in medium and high-speed corners, which is one of the reasons why it went so well at Imola. It's also decent in slower turns, provided they are of the shorter, simple type that you get in Miami. That's because the car's weakness continues to be the struggle in longer, slower corners with combination braking and turning entries. That explains why its performances fluctuate a little. On the plus side, this is a long-standing weakness that is becoming ever less weak. Team principal James Vowles recently characterised it as a problem that rated 8 or 9 out of 10 on the 2023 car, but is now down to a 4. With the main focus on 2026 development now, it's likely Williams will carry this weakness through the rest of the season. While we're on the topic of racing, F1 Clash is back with its sixth and most action-packed season yet. With nearly 40 million players over the last 5 years, this free-to-play mobile game brings the intensity of Formula 1 straight to your pocket. You'll build your own team, develop winning strategies, and race in real-time head-to-head duels, all set against the backdrop of the official F1 calendar. It's fast-paced, strategic, and incredibly fun, whether you're a casual gamer or a die-hard F1 fan. Season 6 brings updated 2025 team liveries, driver stats, rosters, and a brand new DRS feature, giving you more control over your race strategy. Plus, you can unlock and race with F1 legends like Jenson Button, Damon Hill, Mark Webber, and Gilles Villeneuve, with even more legends joining throughout the season. Download F1 Clash now for free on iOS and Android and experience the thrill for yourself. Just hit the link in the description. The Ferrari's main strength is usually race pace, with the speed on Sunday at Imola proof of that. Having qualified outside the top 10, the car showed genuinely good race pace, with Lewis Hamilton recovering to 4th and Charles Leclerc 6th. The trouble is that one of the main reasons its strong race pace stands out is that the Ferrari SF25 struggles in qualifying trim. That's mainly thanks to the big weakness, which is the need to compromise the ride height it's running at to avoid excess plank wear. In particular, that's cost it low-speed corner performance thanks to the mechanical compromises. And while team principal Fred Vasseur keeps talking about the need to extract the potential of the car, it's clear that a step is needed, most likely with a modification to the rear suspension internals to allow the car to run lower and therefore with more downforce. If that can be done, there could be a step change in performance, although as Leclerc says, there might not be a silver bullet to get Ferrari back on top. The Red Bull RB21 has won 2 races in the hands of Max Verstappen, but still isn't consistently the measure of the McLaren. Imola showcased its strengths: great grip in quicker turns, especially on a track that doesn't have too broad a range of corner speeds. When it's in the right window, it's a quick car, and the Imola upgrades have made that easier. Where the Red Bull struggles is on tracks where there is a wide range of corner speeds, which makes it more difficult to find that balance. It's also at a disadvantage on tracks where rear tyre temperature management, when it comes to the core temperature, is key, as opposed to at Imola, where surface temperature was the limiting factor and Verstappen was quick over a race stint. The Mercedes is a decent all-round car, with its main strengths the ability to produce downforce across a wide range of corner speeds, good aero efficiency, and traction. That means that the car has been, for the most part, a consistent force towards, albeit not right at the front, in F1, with George Russell bagging 4 podiums and Kimi Antonelli taking sprint pole in Miami. The big problem for Mercedes is that hopes it now had a car for all seasons and had solved the problem of 2024 when it struggled in higher temperatures have proved wide of the mark. Russell sums it up as, when it's hot, we're nowhere, when it's cold, we're quick. This is because, as Deputy Technical Director Simone Resta puts it, Mercedes hasn't necessarily improved on tyre management. And with a series of races coming up in the European summer, that weakness could be a major problem. The McLaren has been the car of the season so far, winning 5 out of 7 Grand Prix and building a massive lead in the Constructors' Championship. While one of its strengths is producing significant downforce across a wide corner speed spread, it also has a significant advantage when it comes to rear tyre temperature management in races like Miami, where core temperature is key. That's been the subject of much questioning and insinuation, but it's important to note the FIA has looked at and cleared McLaren's designs related to the wheel bodywork assembly. But its biggest weakness is the one that Lando Norris is struggling with, a lack of feel in the front end that appears to be the consequence of the stiff suspension concept of the car. Both drivers have noticed this, but it proved more of a problem for Norris, who seems unable to adapt to that lack of feel and, particularly in qualifying, makes too many mistakes as a result. Things will change for McLaren and the other 9 teams as the cars continue to develop, and the front wing flexibility clampdown kicks in at the Spanish Grand Prix later this month. Once that happens and more upgrades appear, there is every chance not only will the relative performance, but also the characteristics of some or all of the cars will change.